Hello there. What's going on, everyone? Today I'm going to be using Tabletop Admiral to kind of put together a list in Star Wars Legion to challenge the meta a little bit. And I'm going to talk about what goes into some of the thought process for this list. I do want to remind you guys about the giveaway right now. There is still a $25 Amazon gift card giveaway going on, so all you have to do is be a subscriber and leave a comment on this or one of my videos to enter. Basically, I wanted to try and put together a triple Wookiee list just to see if I could maybe make something like that at least marginally competitive. And I wanted to kind of get some of your guys' feedback on what you think, because we've had a lot of competitive events lately. Primes have been going off. Worlds is coming up. We just had LVO, and I don't think there were many Wookiees present. I think Wookiees are something that nobody wants to run right now. And I figured, well, we've had a few new upgrades, and could we maybe revisit Wookiees with some of the latest stuff that came out? And that's kind of one of the things that I want to do here. Now, I will admit, I don't own triple Wookiees, so for me to actually run a list like that, I'd probably have to borrow a set of Wookiees, which isn't really unthinkable. So I kind of got over my hump of, hey, I don't want to play anything unless I own all the stuff, to where, I could try and borrow something, especially if it's just testing. So I'm going to build the Wookiees first, and I'm going to talk about what's going to go into them, because there are a lot of different ways to run this. And I think one of the biggest problems with Wookiees is that, they're not that much of a ranged threat, and they're going to have to get up close. And it can be really tricky to get up close because there are so many long-range threats right now between shore troopers and snipers, and I think Wookiees would do well against Tauntauns, but they're not going to do well against a lot of the other things that are out there. These Imperial gunline lists, even Rebel veterans kind of getting in place and handing out order tokens with fire support. Your Wookiees can really get messed up before you get a chance to even get them in place. They don't have the range that Tauntauns have. They don't have, the ability to close the distance quickly. So I thought I'd have to go kind of high activation in order to make my Wookiees be able to go last and then maybe first or something like that, so I could kind of move them with safety. So the idea is, while I am going to outfit these Wookiees fairly well, I'm not going to completely load them up, because I do want to save some points so I can have a high activation count list. And there's problems that come into that. But here's what I'm going to put on the Wookiees. I'm going to make all three of them the same. So I'm going to give them the extra Wookiee. They're going to, hey, look, they're going to take damage. They're going to lose people. This gives them a ranged attack if they need to. A pretty good ranged attack. It's got Pierce 1 too if I need to do that, which I love Pierce. So I'm very happy to have the Bowcaster Wookiee on there. Additionally, I am going to give each of these guys the new offensive push. They're definitely going to be moving, right? They're absolutely going to be moving, and they've only got black dice for that melee, so they're going to really need the aims. So I do like the idea of offensive push, and I think it's going to come into play like when you finally move them into the craziness. That's when you're really like, there's going to be one key turn that you really need to use this, and I don't think there's going to be like, you're going to be like, oh, I needed to use it every round. I'm like, no, I think you're going to use this on the turn you close to do the melee. I think that's what's going to be happening. You're going to be doing that double move. You're going to need to do the double move to get around the corner and charge their commander, and that's when you're going to really need that aim. That's my viewpoint. So I'm going to give all of them offensive push. And on top of that, I'm only going to give them one other upgrade. And normally I love to give the Wookiees tenacity, or even Hunter can work pretty well, but I think offensive push kind of trumps Hunter a little bit in this case, although they could totally work together. If I had more points, or if I wasn't running triple Wookiee, I could probably make this work. But I am going to give them recon intel. Look, they need to get closer. They don't have the speed that Tauntauns do, so I'm going to try and make up for that a little bit by giving them a Scout 1 move, and there we go. So, and if they do find themselves in a situation where they maybe want to shoot right away, of course, like maybe we're much closer than normal, or somebody had infiltrate or something like that, well, then they can go ahead and get their scout. They can do their aim right away, do a shoot, and then maybe a recover or something like that, or whatever they need to do, recover later. But the idea here is that when I've got triple Wookiees that are built out like this, I am going to really, this is going to be, I think, terrain dependent. I think I'm going to have some terrain that has complete line of sight blocking, that I can move these guys in, get them behind buildings, behind big walls, and then kind of move out and say boogity boogity boo and then do the damage. But to get them there, I'm going to have to be able to go last, basically. So I was toying around with a couple of different, cheap options, and I mean, the cheapest way to go. Oh my goodness, dog's going crazy. The cheapest way to go is basically just to go with all Rebel Troopers. I could just add 6 Rebel Troopers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and that'd be pretty cheap, and I'd still have a lot of points left. But I don't want to go with just all Rebel Troopers. I want to add a couple other things. So I am going to add, I'm going to make it 2 Rebel Troopers to round out my core, but we are going to go with 6 core for sure. And I'm going to go 2 Veterans and then 2 Mark IIs. Now, this is a decision point. Now, if I wasn't trying to be super competitive, I'd have enough points. I could add some heavy weapons to my veterans. I could, add maybe Leia and or Jin or something like that. I could probably go from there, even Han maybe. But I'm trying to get more activations. I also want to get some powerful activations. And R2-D2 represents a really, really cheap way to get a cheap activation in there. I'm going to go with a generic Rebel Officer. Okay, so I'm up to 11 activations already, and I've got a lot of points left. And at this point, this is where in list building you'd say, hey, I got over 100 points left. I can add a couple of sniper strike teams to really pump up the activation count. However, because Wookiees are special forces, I can't do that at this point. So then we have to look elsewhere. So like R2 makes for a great cheap extra activation because, hey, he's operative. We don't usually run 2 operatives, so you can always fit a cheap activation. The next cheapest thing that I could possibly add would be an ATRT. Now, granted, I think Tauntaun Riders would be a good option also at this point, considering how many points I've got left, but I want to throw a couple other upgrades out there. But I'm going to put an ATRT out here, and I'm going to give the ATRT the Rotary Blaster. I still don't think we're going to see a whole lot of impact until the rest of the tanks come out. So an ATRT with Rotary Blaster now probably brings me up to 760. I have points to play with at this point, and I can make some of those other activations a little bit more meaningful. And this is, I think, one of the problems. If you try to go too high with your activation count, you run the risk of making all of your activations terrible. And so I think having an ATRT in there gives me a real strong activation. So I want to be able to give him orders, and I think, you know what? I'm going to give him linked targeting array. So now if he gets an order, he's going to get an aim token. So now I have a guy that can move, shoot with an aim with triple black, or 5 black, and search the crit. Just makes him, very, very good, strong activation. I like this activation. It's going to be a strong, heavy hitter with armor. And of course, I'm going to have my Wookiee Warriors, which are going to be strong activations eventually. I feel like this is a list that I will, at like the first couple of turns, just be getting in position, really, probably doing a lot of dodge actions, maybe even a couple of standbys. So we've got some more points. I do want to give my Rebel officer aggressive tactics. I think that's a great option for a list like this. Aggressive tactics is one of those lists I don't think that Rebels really need to use as much because, well, they, like, all right, the Rebel Troopers can use it for offense, but like the Rebel Veterans, they don't need it. All right, the Mark IIs, they don't need it. They've got it. So, who really needs it? The ATRT, maybe he could use it for defense a little bit. I could see that. But the Wookiees, I think, really can benefit from it in this case. A lot of Rebel units, though, that are popular right now have the searches that they need. Your Tauns don't really need it. If you're playing Luke right, he's not going to need it. Sabine, that sort of stuff. So I feel like, and especially the veterans, they don't need it. So, heck, even R2's got it. So he doesn't even need it. Rebel Officer doesn't need it. But aggressive tactics in this case is going to be able to give you some help to the Rebel Troopers. But I really think the aggressive tactics is in here for the Wookiees. For the Wookiees, and the ATRT would be ideal. All right, so I've got 4 kind of expensive activations, and I want them, and they all can benefit from having a surge token. So that's kind of my idea there. And the defensive surge, give them a little more staying power. This is a 12 activation list. It's a little bit higher, and especially if you do go up against a smaller activation list, it's going to be really, really nice because hopefully you'll be able to stall and then activate all 3 Wookiees last if you can manage. If you go up against an 8 or 9 activation list, all 3 Wookiees can go last with impunity. And then it becomes a, hey, all right, can I go first next turn? And even if I can't go first next turn and I lose a Wookiee, if I moved all 3 together, I still have 2 more Wookiees that can go in there. Like if you go up against a double the fall list and you've got to deal with Dooku or whatever, well, you got some more Wookiees that can come in there and hurt him. Hurt him a little bit. Hurt him, hopefully. So what else can we do? Well, R2-D2 actually can be a power activation as well in this list. If we're going to give him C-3PO as his counterpart. And now all of a sudden he can be support, because he can hand out other tokens, right? Or he can win you the game, which is super awesome. That brings me up to 790 right now, and we have a little bit more I'm going to put out, but this is where it comes into like, what do I really want to add? What's really important to me? Normally, I would never think of running Rebel veterans without their heavy weapon. Right? The CM93 is an awesome unit to have. He's 4 white dice. He's got critical 2, so he's great against shooting into cover. He's great against shooting vehicles. He just adding that to your attack pool is awesome, because you're gonna have 4, 5, 9 dice. Critical 2 on that is awesome. But I can live without it. I can live without it in this case, because this is one of those times where I think my Rebel veterans in this case really just want to be getting activations, and when I can give them orders, they're going to be able to get dodge tokens. But what's the good thing here is they can pass it to the Mark IIs. If I need power activations, the Mark IIs are strong enough to, with critical 2 going into their attack, I can get some nasty stuff. Hey, maybe R2 is going to just be able to shoot you with this little thing, suppressive thing. Oh, boom, boom! I've got Mark II. Throw in 4 extra black with critical 2. It's certainly possible. But I am going to give the Mark IIs comms relay, because I'm not always going to be using them as fire support. So I'm going to give them each comms relay to use in my last 10 points. So this way I've got a lot of flexibility on issuing orders, because even if I can only do 1 order. Okay, I do standing orders. All right, I give it to the Rebel veterans. They pass it to the Mark II. Who then he passes his back to the other Rebel veterans. He passes his to the other Mark II, and then I've got an extra order going out somewhere else, and I can hit one of those unique units. I can hit Commander, I can hit R2-D2, I can hit the ATRT, which is going to be huge, because then I can put a surge token on him. So I get to do all of that for just standing orders. And then I've got my Wookiees still in the pile, but I've got a lot of core out of the way. So pulling from the pile, I have a much better chance of just pulling from the pile and getting Wookiees if I want to, or just activating all those other units first. But at other times where I play, a 2 or 3 pip and have multiple orders to hand out, I can manage to get Wookiees if I need to. Or just leave Wookiees in the pile and get everybody else. Give 1 to R2-D2 so I don't end up pulling that one when I don't want to. Give 1 to the ATRT so I don't end up pulling that one when I don't want to. And of course, the ATRT here definitely wants to get issued orders because of linked targeting array, because he is going to be getting a name every time he's going to be getting one of those. So that's pretty important. Now, we don't have any kind of bid for first player. And it really is just going to depend on the maps and where that big heavy cover is. So there is a little bit of a risk there, but for blue player, I should say. But that's the list. 12 activations. You think they're all going to be crap activations, but they're not in this case. We don't have a big commander, but we've got 3 heavy hitters in the Wookiee Warriors. We've got another heavy hitter in the ATRT with link targeting array and the rotary blaster, and we've got a secret weapon with a secret mission with R2. So I'm curious what you guys think. Do you think 12 is enough? Do you think I need to, crank it up even more? Because it's possible to squeeze 13 out of this list, and it's not pretty. It involves pulling some of those upgrades off of other units, and I think dropping the ATRT down to a bare bones ATRT and running 2 of them. I don't like that idea, because I feel like you don't get... look, you can still shoot. You're getting 2 white with surge to crit, so you can still shoot with an ATRT that has no upgrades at all. It's only 55 points. It works, but I don't think I'm really crazy about that idea. I've tried stuff like that in the past. Didn't work out all that great, but it's kind of fun to think about. All right, guys, that is the list. I'd love to hear what you guys think. Let me know down in the description below. Again, there's still time to enter to win that giveaway. I'll put a link to this list. Be sure to check out Tabletop Admiral. Great list builder. And that's all I've got for you today. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. I also want to thank my patrons. You guys are amazing. Definitely help this channel keep running and smoothly, and I couldn't do this without you. So thank you so much. And if you're interested in any of that, there's links in the description below. All right, guys, as always, have a great day.